Hey, this is Allison and Courtney. We're back for Making Time for Your Health with fruits and vegetables. So today we're going to focus on tomatoes. Allison, can you tell us all about growing them?
Okay, so tomatoes are the most popular home garden vegetable. They're not the easiest to grow though. They can be quite tricky. So they are a great crop. We can grow them very successfully here in the Concho Valley. I know some awesome gardeners who grow a ton of tomatoes really well, but there are some things to keep in mind to be more successful. They can be quite tricky. One reason is they're not really a hot weather plant. They're more of a cool weather plant. Now, they're not a winter crop. We can grow them when it's freezing, but they really prefer the spring and fall cooler temperatures, mainly because the flowers won't set fruit when it's too hot or it's too cold. And where we are, we definitely deal with the hotter temperatures more than too cool temperatures. So they just don't want to set fruit when it gets too hot. Some ways that you can get around that, one would be your timing of your planting. So you can plant early in the spring. So again, wait till it's not freezing anymore. So don't plant too early, but as soon as we are clear of freezing temperatures, go and buy a nice big transplant. Sometimes they sell them where they're already having flowers or even little fruit that you can buy, and plant those nice big plants as soon as you can so that you have a head start. So you can get some good production before it gets too hot, or time it for a fall crop. You can plant in the summer, in the late summer around July or even to early August, plant new transplants then, so that as they grow and when it cools down around September, October, you can start harvesting again then when it cools down. Or you can focus on heat tolerant varieties. So cherry tomatoes in particular, I've got some cherry plants right here. They are particularly good and heat tolerant. So they're a good option to try. Some other varieties that are more heat tolerant would be things like Tycoon, Celebrity, Sunmaster. Those are heat tolerant varieties that have been developed to just produce better when it gets hot. They're smaller sized tomatoes, small to medium size. They're not going to be the great big huge tomatoes because big tomatoes really need those cooler temperatures.
And with the 100 degrees and plus, right now, it's just a perfect option, I think.
I think so.
And I really love cherry tomatoes, put them in any types of dishes.
They taste so good. Cherry tomatoes really have a good tomato flavor, so I like them too.
Allison, now also there's been some conflict over if this is a fruit or a vegetable. What do you think?
Well, I'm a horticulturist. Botanically, tomato is definitely a fruit.
Yes, it is.
It has seeds in it.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. It does have seeds in it. So things that do have seeds are considered a fruit. And in 1893, I believe the Supreme Court actually made it a vegetable because that's just how we use it. But it is actually officially a fruit by book. So.
Yeah, so that's why I mentioned setting fruit and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Diet-wise, we call it vegetable. It's tomato. It's what you call it, right?
Right.
So if you want to plant some tomatoes, like I said, coming up in July will be a great time to plant some new fresh plants for a fall crop. If you want to plant, do incorporate some compost. They'll perform better with nice rich soil, so incorporate compost when you plant. It is easiest to start from a plant and not direct seed. If you would like to start from seed, you're probably going to be better off if you use like a seed starting tray. Start them inside in a sunny window and get your plants up, sprouted, and then pot them up into a little bit bigger container, let them harden off outside for a while, and then plant into your garden. Just sticking the seed straight into your garden isn't going to work as well as if you start from a plant or grow transplants inside and then put them out. Tomatoes are one plant that does really well with deep planting. So some plants like trees and shrubs, you definitely don't want to plant them any deeper than their root system was before. But tomato plants, they actually they'll grow roots off of stem tissue that's underground. So if you have a tall, kind of a leggy tomato plant, maybe kind of tall and skinny, you can dig a little bit of a trench and lay that tomato kind of halfway flat and then stick the end of it up out of the ground, and all of that stem that was buried is going to create roots. And the more roots, the better. So you can plant your tomatoes deep, kind of sideways in a trench. Where you grow them, it can be in a container or in the garden, in the ground. You can just plant the tomato and let it grow in the ground, but most people like to give them some support. So a lot of people will use tomato cages. You can use a staking system. You don't have to, but that's what a lot of people do. Another good tip is to use lots of mulch. Lots of good thick mulch. That's going to be helpful for any of your garden vegetables. Mulch does a whole lot of things. It helps keep water in, so it prevents evaporation. So when you do water, it's more, your plants have access to it more before, instead of it just evaporating away. It also helps keeps the weeds out. Weeds aren't just unsightly, they actually compete. So you want to keep your garden clear of weeds, and nice thick mulch like 3 to 4 inches deep will really help keep the weeds out, so that your plants can have all the nutrients and water for themselves instead of competing. So a lot of vegetables, including tomatoes, they do well with some light, frequent applications of fertilizer. I call it spoon feeding, just giving a little bit, light doses regularly. So for me, I just spray mine down with a light solution of fertilizer about once a week or so. Don't overdo it on the fertilizer. It can actually scorch the tissue. Maybe don't do it on the hottest, sunniest day. But just a light, frequent dose of fertilizer will help them be more productive and give you lots to harvest. So I mentioned the heat issue. Some other issues are just pests. There's lots of different things that can affect tomatoes. They have diseases. I see quite a bit of early blight, fungal disease on tomato plants in the springtime. They can have insect pests like tomato hornworms and different things like that. I have issues with birds. The birds really bother me here.
I think we all have issues with the birds sometimes.
I love birds. I love seeing my cardinals in my yard, but I don't like them eating my tomato plants. So bird netting can help a lot. It can be a pain to harvest because you have to get under the bird netting, but if you have birds eating your tomatoes, then just throw some bird netting. You can buy a pack from a home improvement store. It's pretty inexpensive, and that'll help keep the birds out. But if you have issues with the fruit not looking right, or if your plant is getting sickly, and you're worried it's a pest like a disease or an insect, we have some great tools that Texas A&M has provided. And so you can go to the website Aggie Horticulture. Just Google Aggie Horticulture, or the website is aggie-horticulture.tamu.edu. And there's some different resources there. One is the Tomato Problem Solver. So the Tomato Problem Solver is just has lots of pictures of problems, and you can compare your problems with those problems and match it up and figure out what's wrong and diagnose what the issue is. And they'll have solutions for you. And there's also a guide just on all the aspects of growing tomatoes on there. So really good resource to, like I said, tomatoes can be tricky. So use all your resources to get the best crop. So when it comes to harvesting, one thing that I like about tomatoes is they can ripen really well after picking. Some fruits won't ripen very much more after you pick them, but tomatoes they'll totally ripen as long as they're full size. You can't pick an immature sized tomato and expect it to ripen, but if it gets to be full size, it could be as green as anything. You pick that, you set it out for a while, it'll fully ripen as much as it would have ripened on the vine, which is good.
And tomatoes are they're beautiful in any types of dishes. It's just a good, wonderful addition to anything. But it's extremely healthy for you. It does provide all kinds of different, vitamins and nutrients for your body. It provides fiber and potassium, vitamin A and C, and lycopene too. So it benefits your body in so many ways. It helps promote iron absorption, and then it also helps heal your wounds, and it does promote your heart and skin and bone health, and even cancer prevention as well. So I do encourage y'all to definitely put tomatoes in any of your dishes, or even I eat them by themselves a lot too.
Nice big sliced tomato with some salt.
Oh yes,
or a good cherry tomato,
and a little bit of mozzarella cheese. It's so good for you. It's healthy. But besides just in your salads, you can replace your high calorie cream sauces that you put on your pasta with tomato based types of sauce. So, and you can harvest this and make a fresh sauce for your sauces. You can also utilize it in your breakfast. So maybe put some tomatoes, pico de gallo on top of your eggs, or even make fresh salsa put on your eggs, or even in breakfast burritos. But I utilize them in a lot of things. make sure that you do store it, at room temperature, like Allison said, for up to a week. But if you don't, if they start turning, make sure that you go ahead and, can them or, preserve them in some way, so you're not going to lose that. All the vegetables. But next time we're going to be focusing on local produce. So we're going to go be out at our local farmers market, and we're going to be talking with them. So I hope to see you back then soon. Thank you.